The other thing you'll want to do, because again, somebody who has your files may not use Reaper. So if they don't use Reaper, they're not going to be able to open that RPP file. What you want to do is, again, I'm going to go back to project settings because I forgot to do this. I'm going to select all of this, right click, choose copy, and then I'm going to open up a notepad file and control V. And actually, I'm going to call this Chris for keeps in quotes mix session notes. And I've actually done this before, and the other guy who ended up remixing a song I did thanked me a lot because a lot of people don't do this. So after I have my notes saved, this is a regular old text file. I'm going to just control S, find my archive folder, again by copying and control C copying from the Windows Explorer window, and then control V in that spot. I'm going to save this as, again, oops, I hit caps lock, Chris for, I can't use quotes because it's a file name, for keeps, or maybe I can, but I don't know, for keeps mix notes, mix session notes. And then I could save it as a text file, which is probably fine, but actually I'll do both. You can't do a RTF, which is the more universal format. So I'm actually going to save it as a regular old text file, which I don't know any computer that can't open a text file. But I'm also going to do a secondary thing, which is file, print, and then under here, I have a program called Nitro PDF Creator, which is a free program. And I don't know why it says Pro 9. I never paid for it. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to make myself a PDF file. And it's already under that. So it's already saved to where I want it to be. All right, cool. And there we go. So we have a PDF and a text file. All right. Very cool stuff. So that's our archive so far. We have our notes. We have our files. I guess I could make a session with all this stuff. Let's do that, all right? Yeah, let's close out of all this. So I'm going to hit OK, save it one more time, close all projects, and then I'm going to just drop all these files in there, all right? Not the text files. Oh, I just remembered something. You should write down which virtual instruments you used. So all that stuff should be noted in the project file. Okay, or in the project notes, I mean. Okay, so let's listen to this. Let's hear if it sounds as it should. Now I'm going to put the mix down. Actually, let's just listen to it right now. Mute my terrible keyboard playing and the click track. It's good to know the click track's there, though. I don't know why it just dropped a bunch of extra tracks in there. That's weird. Hold on. Oh, duh. I had my mix down on. And I messed up. This is actually, somebody else would actually redo this, but it's good that I caught this before, whatever. I accidentally had the tempo track still on when I did the mix down. Terrible, right? Well, not really. I can just open up my mix archive, and you'll notice, like I said, it pops up immediately, my notes. And actually now I can get specifically what my virtual instrument was, which is Sample Tank 3, Electric Piano Stage EP. Okay, and as soon as I save that, it's embedded in the project folder. I'm closing this tab out. I don't really need it anymore. Okay, so I messed up the mix down. My bad, as they say.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Now it's muted. And actually, I'm going to mute this terrible piano because I really don't need that. Well, no, that's wrong information because normally this would be the actual instrument you would have in your mix, so I'm going to keep it. So I'll just render that out, overwrite it. I knew I was going to miss one of these steps. It's just a very particular thing you got to do, and it's, when you're not trying to explain how to do this, it's easier to think, well, what do I got to do with all these files? So it's surprising that I've only made one mistake throughout this. I'll probably make another. Okay, so I'm going to open up that folder. There's the mix down. Let me try this again by dropping all these into a new session. Turn my MIDI data off. Solo the mix down. Wow, that keyboard just ruins it. Mix down worked. Let's see if everything else did. I'll delete it now.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Oh, gotta get rid of the click track.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
And the horrible keyboard.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Sounds good to me. That is the key step. You gotta listen to it. You're the mix engineer. You know what the mix is supposed to sound like. Again, if you had plugins on your mix channel, you can put them on now if you want. Although that should be in your master session. Either way, that's all there is to it. I mean, it's a lot of steps, but it's important so that years from now, and this just happened to me, somebody asked me, hey, do you have the old files? And now, number one, I charged them for going into the archive because that's time out of my schedule that could be used for other things. So I said, yeah, I can dig that up, but it's going to cost X amount of money. They were okay with that. I dug it up. They're, putting their music on a compilation album with a bunch of other musicians, and somebody else was mixing it. So I said, okay, sure. If you guys want to hear, if you want to take a shot at remixing it, go for it, So I have all the files, and then I have, here's the raw files. Here are my mix files. Here's the mix down if you just want to remaster it. And here are my mix notes. That's all stuff I had archived, So, by the way, I didn't mention anything. This one very important step. If you use, let's say, Slate Trigger or IK Multimedia, Amplitube, a guitar amp simulator plugin, what you should do, and I'm just going to do this kind of half-assed. Let's say you have this plugin, obviously prior to any other plugins, right? What you want to do is disable all the FX. So let's say I'll just put these two plugins on, all right? So let's say I have these three plugins. This is my guitar simulator plugin. I'm going to disable both of these or whatever. Let's say there was 10. You want to disable 9 except for Amplitube, except for whatever your guitar amp simulator plugin is, or if you have Trigger, and then after Trigger you had a bunch of plugins, you would disable those as well. You understand what I'm saying? Because anything that emulates an instrument, whether it be a virtual instrument, piano, or whatever, trigger simulates drums, amplitude simulates guitar amps, anything that simulates a real instrument needs to be rendered down by itself without any other effects on. I'm not talking about the DI track either. That's a whole separate thing that you have in your recording archive. This is the mix process archive. And definitely have that. Actually, in fact, I typically will do that for the mix, but if you mix with the amplitude on or whatever other plugin you use, if you mix with this on in the mix session itself, then you got to do it this way. I almost forgot to say that. But yeah, you definitely want to do that because, again, let's say I have a computer that I don't have trigger on. I don't have an iLok, or I don't have the library itself. That happens. This happens all the time. People delete their virtual instrument libraries, and now all of a sudden it's not playing the samples back. That's a big problem. So you need to render that down same way as before. Except instead of selecting all the tracks, you would just select this one track or whatever. And again, let's say that I'm doing just amplitude, so I just have amplitude on. I don't have to have the window open, but just go to File, Render, change your render back to Stem Selected Tracks, and call this, instead of the wildcard, you're going to call this Guitar DI Amplitude amp sim processed or whatever, something that makes sense. And then you can render that down. I would definitely choose stereo because typically you have reverb or something or delay in these plugins. So and also 32-bit floating point and 90. Well, I gotta change everything because my mix session. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to put this in. That I can't believe I forgot that. All right, I said I would mess up again, didn't I? So in your session notes, you want to put in bit depth. Now this is kind of obvious, but you could do 32-bit floating point and then sampling rate 96 kilohertz. All right, there we go. So add that. I'll copy and paste this. Or you know what? I actually got to combine these, don't I? This is why this is like the last step. So, oh wait, I don't have it on this one. Well, I would add the part about the virtual instrument that I have in the other session file onto what I just wrote about sample rate and bit depth. Again, this is stuff that it's a little bit easier to do when you're not explaining it to other people, which is what I'm doing right now. So you want to just make sure all those, and actually I have notes that in case I did forget anything else, I'm just going to read from those right now. Okay, so the things that you want to have in your session notes may include the pan law, like I said before, the tempo, whether or not there was a tempo map, and you might want to include that data as well, but that'll take care of itself with the click source. All right, that's why you want to have the metronome exported, because then the person who mixes your stuff will be like, oh, it changed in the middle of the song. All right. The other important details that you may want to include are the version of the DAW that you used, which operating system was used, what plugin formats such as VST, Audio Units, AAX, RTAS, and anything else that you think may be important, include it. As far as where do you put all these files, because you're not going to keep them on your system hard drive or your secondary hard drive, all right? I'm not going to keep all these files on there. Well, what I've been using for years, which has worked for me, is I include one set of files on an external hard drive, all right? Then I also burn those files onto optical media. These days, I use Blu-ray disc. In the old days, I used DVDs. It's up to you. You could also, because they're so cheap these days, get a memory card just for your album project or your EP or what have you. Memory cards are super cheap these days. And because they don't have any moving parts or they can't easily be scratched, although they can be damaged, nothing is bulletproof. Solid state memories such as SDHC or compact flash cards are great for long-term storage. Now, if you got some money on your hands, you may want to, and this will please Mr. Albini, you can actually back up data to a tape drive, although they are very expensive, but that's what all the big name companies use for data archiving. They actually use tapes. But again, the drives and the tape are expensive. Alright guys, I think that's about it. This video has gone on long enough. I think you guys get the gist of this, and this will prove that digital media can be a long-term archival format. I think it's actually better than tape because tape will deteriorate over the years. Anytime you play back tape over the tape heads, it slowly gets rid of the quality, and that's a damn shame, which is why the smart record labels have already backed up all of their tapes onto digital media as a third backup or a fourth backup. Obviously, they're not going to throw away the tapes, but the tapes are now in digital format, transferred with a high quality analog to digital converter, and things are good. That stuff is going to be maintained for a very long time, and your music is important to you as well. So that's how I do it. I have files dating back to the very first time I burned a CDR, which was with a Zip 100 650 megabyte CD burner. I have a disc and it still works. It's got a little bit of scratches on it, but it still works. And I have data, video data dating back to around 2004 that I burned on DVD-Rs back when they were like $5 or $6 a piece. I had Blu-rays that were, the spindle cost like $180, so do the math on that for 50 of them. So this stuff has worked for me over the years. I can't tell you if it's going to be there in 20 years, but I went back and the data was there, no problem. I take care of the disc. The hard drives, not so much. A lot of them, I've had about 3 or 4 hard drives die on me. So, again, the less moving parts, the better. So if your project is super important, I would put it on a memory card. I would put it on compact flash is a little bit more expensive than SDHC, but durability wise, they feel a lot more solid. They feel more like a solid state hard drive than a flimsy ass SDHC. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. SDHC memory cards are very easy to bend and crack, step on, etc., etc. Compact flash is just a much more sturdy format. So that's what I would recommend. Compact flash all day, every day. Or if you got a lot of money, buy yourself a little solid state hard drive and use that as your secondary and back up onto that. That is also an option, although finding cases for those to be stored in could be a problem. Anyway, guys, I hope you got a lot of good information from this. Archiving our history is important, even if it's just your own and nobody else cares but you. When you're old one day, you want to still be able to listen back on this stuff and pass it on to your grandchildren or whatever. But seriously, a friend of mine whose dad died, he actually loves listening back to his dad's old tapes of his band. His band was quite awesome, and he loves listening to those cassette tapes. And actually, now that I'm thinking about that, I should offer to back those cassette tapes up onto a digital format for him, because one day those tapes may be eaten because cassette tapes suck. And maybe I'm gonna remember to call him and ask him if he wants me to do that for him. One other thing I should mention before I go is that you should keep an archive of your plugin and DAW installation files on a DVD, along with any virtual instrument libraries. Keep all that stuff backed up because you can never rely on the cloud. A company that you did business with may go out of business, and then you have no way of accessing their software. Or they may release a new version of a piece of software and not have access to the old version. And that new version may not be compatible with your operating system, or it might crash a lot. So definitely keep an archive of not just what you've recorded and mixed, but also your tools as well. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.